I still remember the feeling when I played Undertale for the first time. It was after Christmas 2015, quite a light-hearted game with retro graphics and music. For a pretty long time it was on the first spot of my favorite games of all the time list. Why am I bringing this up? It's because the game I'll be covering today reminds me a lot about Undertale. Changed was developed and published by SnowDragon. It was released on 5th of April 2019, but wasn't translated into English until 13th of May. It's a typical puzzle game in which you play a role of an unnamed human being who wakes up inside a mysterious building. Your goal is to solve all the puzzles and get out of this place. Let's get the obvious out of the way. This game contains something called transformation fetish. I won't dwell on that too much since you can google that shit up. I am only mentioning this because it plays a big part in the game's storyline. I would discourage you from judging the game based on its fetish-related content. It's a good idea to give a chance to a game containing something you don't like once in a while. I'm not a fan of visual novels, yet I enjoyed Major Minor. Sometimes you just need to get out of your comfort zone. I mentioned that this content plays a big part in the game's story, which itself is quite interesting. You have to get through all of the hardships to reach your dream destination, which in this case is outside. It reminds me about the old PSP game called Parapon, in which you were leading a tribe of small creatures towards their dream destination called It. Stories about weak creatures working hard to reach their goal are always heartwarming. It's the kind of story that has existed for centuries, but it never gets old. There are a few decent plot twists on the way, but I wish that the story of the outside world and the facility we are in would be a bit more fleshed out. The whole question of what happened before I woke up seems to be pushed aside for the most of the game. Only in the true ending we learn more about the backstory of this world. Excluding this ending, we learn a bit of the story from our main companion in the game, Huro. Huro, the character that everybody seems to love. Maybe because of him being the only friendly latex creature in the game. Maybe because of his curious nature. Maybe because of his level of care he shows towards you. Maybe all of this combined. One thing that most people would agree on is that his personality, will to understand and become more like human, is admirable. The longer we play, the bond between human and the black latex monster grows stronger. Rarely games manage to build friendship between two characters so well. SnowDragon has achieved something truly remarkable in that aspect. There is one more character in the game that plays a big role in the story, but I won't speak about him, since I believe that saying more than acknowledging his existence would count as a spoiler. It's worth to add that we won't even see this character if we won't at least reach the first level of the true ending. Speaking about the true ending, the way of acquiring it is pretty convoluted. I would split it into 3 levels. First 2 levels, and achieving them, is based purely on your relationship with Huro. They are all achieved by picking the right responses in the correct order while talking to our black gooey friend. Third level is achieved when at the end of the game you make the important decision. Worth noting is the fact that all of the endings have a lot of emotional content. I'm not the first one to cry while playing video games, but this one has put me on the edge. Funny enough, the way that this game has emotionally affected me has reminded me a lot about Undertale and Parapon. Additional hit of nostalgia to already great story and characters makes for a very powerful impact. The correct order is often pretty logical, but if you want to achieve the true ending, I would highly encourage you to use Change Walkthrough written by Prios that is to be found at the community guide section on Steam. Sadly, here we get to the biggest problems of the game. I have played almost the entire game using guide mentioned earlier. Why, you may ask? It's because I felt like some puzzles were too confusing. The amount of time I would have to spend on actually getting the answer myself would impact on my enjoyment of the game. I found it more entertaining to read the answer and then backtrack to the beginning of the puzzle. Playing the game this way made me appreciate those puzzles even more. There has been a lot of thought put into each of them. Problem arises when even knowing the answer to the puzzle, I wasn't able to backtrack on it. Quite a lot of them, involving enemies, were also pretty frustrating. One of the reasons is that they are made with trial and error rule in mind, which wouldn't be a problem if not for the terrible saving system. Saves in the game are found quite often, but they almost always appear before conversation or a short animation. When you die, you will be made to see those conversations over and over again. They seem to be pretty short and maybe last for 10 seconds at most, but when you are made to watch them for 100 times, they're a huge waste of time. That is mostly due to enemies' walking path, which are created using RNG. That means that even if you know how the enemy generally behaves, you can never predict the way he is going to move. I often ended up being completely surrounded by enemies, which meant for me another 10 seconds of the same text I already read 10 times. It takes away skill from the game and it makes you rely on luck. Someone said that this game is more tedious than hard, and I agree. In-game clock shows that completing the game took me around 2 hours and 20 minutes, and Steam tells me that my playtime overall is 9 hours. Add to that the fact that I was using a walkthrough to finish puzzles quicker. So if you would be playing without any help, I expect it would take you at least twice the time I have spent on it. Another thing I want to mention is the multiple endings of the game. If you fail your attempt at getting the true ending, instead of achieving level 1 or level 2 of the true ending, you will end the game there. Same thing happens if you play on the easy difficulty. My biggest gripe about these endings is that they require you to fail at getting the true ending. If you want to make a very specific save in very specific moments of the story, to achieve the other endings, you will need to play the game again. It's a similar problem I had with Major Minor. For me to want to play the game again, I need to enjoy the gameplay. When the game is frustrating or boring, I immediately don't want to play this game again. Changed is sadly one of those games. The amount of annoyances this game has provided in the form of RNG controlled enemies and badly made save points makes me want to stay away from this game, even with all the charm of its characters. Last thing I feel like I need to talk about are the graphics and sound. Nothing to complain about. Last time I saw such perfect match between music and art was back in 2015 when Undertale came out. Brings back the great memories of that game. In the end, would I recommend playing Changed? If you have a high tolerance for frustrating games and want to hear a good story with good characters, then I would say yes. Price of the game isn't terrible, and its Steam items can very quickly let you earn that money back. If this game would someday come out on Nintendo eShop, I would happily buy it just to experience the story again. Thanks for watching my review. Gears signing out, and have a great day!